Welcome back to our series where the journey in finance gets real and personal. Today, we're diving into a story that's all about passion, dedication, and the power of relationships in the mortgage industry. Join us as we welcome Josh Brooks, a key player in the TVH Group, who's here to share his inspiring journey and the lessons learned along the way. Josh opens up about his transition to a client-facing role, revealing how his motivation and zeal for mortgages have fueled his success. He highlights the importance of building strong, lasting relationships with clients and how these connections have become the cornerstone of his career. Through his narrative, discover the invaluable insights gained from working closely with John and the TVH team. Wrapping up, Josh delves into the art of guiding clients through their mortgage journey, emphasizing the significance of long-term financial planning and the benefits of a collaborative team. Learn how staying ahead of interest rate announcements and preparing for mortgage renewals can make all the difference. Join us in uncovering the secrets to achieving client success and fostering enduring partnerships in the mortgage world.
Well, I'd like to welcome everyone to the Money Mindset Mastery podcast. And today we have another special guest, Josh Brooks. Josh, thanks for joining us this evening.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, our pleasure. And obviously joining me as usual is my partner in crime, Ryan. Ryan, how are you this evening?
Doing wonderful today. I'm excited to get to know Josh a little bit more, besides just puttering around the office, bugging each other, asking questions, stuff like that. So chasing information for all my clients. So
Yeah, absolutely. And for those of you who don't know, I'm Jim, and I'm also a host of our podcast episode. And we're kind of introducing someone this evening that's not really new to TVH, but there's some kind of exciting things happening with Josh as well. So, Josh, let's talk about how long have you been working with Verico TVH Mortgages? It's been a few years now, right?
It has been a few years. I believe I started August 6th of 2019. I remember to the day. Yeah, so it's been quite a bit of time.
Yeah, and you came in originally handling more like the admin side for John's team on the mortgage side, correct?
Yeah, when I came in, it's funny. When I came in, I didn't even know what the business was, to be honest.
Okay.
I didn't know. I was just kind of thrown in, and it was like, hey, like these are some of the things that we're gonna do, which I like, by the way. I like the on-the-job stuff. And then day by day, I was like, oh, mortgages, finance, this is what it's happening here. As I did more of the admin stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. And before that, what were you doing? My understanding was you were in the insurance business. Is that correct, or am I wrong there?
Yeah, so I was an insurance agent. I was selling insurance for Combined Insurance Company of America, AMS, cancer, critical illness, stuff like that. So I'm kind of happy that it's the same kind of industry. You know what I mean? It's like the same, finance and stuff like that, and just anything to help people's lives, I'm happy to do so.
So what's been your primary function then with John over the last 5 years?
So I would say for the first 2.5 years was really learning the insides of like how a business works. And I think that was invaluable for me to learn, because I feel like it's really helping me for where I'm at today. So I'd say the first 2.5 years was definitely like doing a lot of admin stuff, a lot of filing, a lot of seeing how things need to be stored, seeing how things work behind the scenes. Yeah. So now that I'm kind of doing the more scenes stuff, for lack of a better term, now we're in the scene, not behind the scene anymore. Those things that I was doing before now help me do that, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And now basically you're kind of taking that experience in underwriting a file. Now you're going to be client facing and starting to develop your own mortgage practice. Is that correct?
Exactly. Yeah,
okay,
exactly.
So let's talk about a little bit about that at this point.
Yeah.
What made you decide to do that?
Yeah. Why mortgages?
Yeah.
Why mortgages? So again, this is another funny question because this one took me a few months to really understand why mortgages and why I'm so interested in it.
Yeah.
And what I think about every time that we do a file here, or every time I see, a client happy, or whatever the situation is, I think about my mom, actually, because that's
Okay.
one of my dreams is to put my mom in a house. That's like one of the things that drives me every day I wake up to, because she's done so much for me.
Yeah.
So that feeling that I get when clients are happy and they're like, oh, thank goodness, finally got the mortgage finally in my home. That is, I would say, the main thing that keeps me going and that keeps me passionate about mortgages.
Okay.
That's the thing. Just getting people into a better financial position for themselves makes me think, wow, what if this is my family? What if this is my mom? Trying to get to this point as well. So
That's awesome.
that's why mortgages.
Yeah, that's amazing, because I know a lot of people really struggle with, taking that first step. And Josh, you and I have talked a lot about this, taking those first steps towards a mortgage, and how scary and navigating what it's like buying a first home, or any home for that matter, or business property. I think one of the things that often people are scared about is those steps. So, like, what kind of things do you do to help clients when they first make that first phone call, talking with you and the team there?
Well, I think a great first step is always making sure that the client knows that first and foremost, I'm here to listen. I want to get a full picture of your position, of what you're trying to do, where you are now and where we're trying to go. Because I like to think of it as I'm simply what how ships have the captain of the ship, and then there's also, correct me if I'm wrong, is it the quartermaster? There are two guys. Is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I've never been into boating, so I wouldn't know.
Fair enough. But it is not my boat, but I am the captain, if that makes sense.
Right.
So you're just telling me you want to get to this island. I'm telling you the best route to get there. And that only starts by, first step, listening. So I'm going to listen to what you need. I want to make you feel comfortable. I want to make you feel heard. I want you to understand that what we're here for you. I'm here to help you get to your, to a better position financially. That next step in your life,
Yeah, for sure. And you've definitely have been working with one of the best in the industry, and my partner, John. So what types of things have you picked up in working with him in terms of his process, and what are you going to maybe copy for yourself in helping your clients moving forward?
You're 100% right when you say one of the best, because in terms of, I don't know for other people who have, whatever industry you work in, but I know sometimes micromanaging could be annoying. I love it. I want that because I'm a person that when I make the mistakes, tell me immediately. And he does that well. But I think the main thing that I'm going to pick up from him and kind of duplicate for myself is kind of knowing when that balance is when it comes to talking and the situations in the financial process on our end. Because at certain points I've learned when to kind of hit the gas and to hit the brakes.
Yeah.
There are certain points where sometimes, you get antsy where you want to close the deal. Yeah. But there are some steps that we need to take before then. I've learned from listening to John on the phone, from seeing how he deals with things and watching the emails, that there are certain points and times, to really push something forward and to really pull stuff back for the betterment of the situation.
Yeah, it's not a science, it's an art.
Exactly. It's definitely an art. And the things like the talking and meeting with people and, giving them that peace of mind and giving that stability in their mind that is the art. Right. And that's something that he pushes a lot onto all of us here at the TVH Mortgages team,
Yeah. And you'll be working
I
closely
think one of
with
the
them when you
big
submit
things
your own
that's
deals for clients. So they'll have that experience, that backup as well. Correct?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was saying one of the big things I noticed coming from you and John too is that personability of really getting to know a client and understanding their situation, which puts a lot of ease as they go through each of the steps. Because I have quite a few clients that have worked with your team, and again, the feedback is always just so wonderful about you're taking step by step, you're making them understand each of the steps as they go along through this process, and which really puts it at ease. So I would say, like, seeing that obviously adds value and is one of maybe the core beliefs that you guys have within your team. Can you talk a little bit about the relationships that you've kind of created working through that process with clients?
You know, and I'm glad you brought that up, Ryan, because that is kind of what we live for here, making clients feel at ease, going through that process with you, because it's funny, it teaches me things too. And I've been doing this for a few years again, but every time I do a file, whether it's a first time home buyer or their third refinance, I learn something new every single time. And it's always around like how people, you know, like to be treated during certain things. You know, you mentioned the relationship with clients, and in my opinion, I think that should be held to the highest caliber when it comes to any business transaction at any point, is that the relationship needs to be there because that's the strong foundation. You know, one thing that happened early on for me is when I was, you know, beginning to work with clients, is I wasn't the best at really keeping them in the know during the process at first, because I'm like, oh, I told them once that this is going to get done. That's it, right? But you grow to learn that it becomes much easier on both ends when it's, hey, by the way, this is the step we're at this point. Here's what's happening now. We went to the lawyer. We're talking to this person. And that's what really gives them the peace of mind. And I think that's what really makes us stand out here, is that we're not forgetting about you. You're the first thing. Like when I come into work and I look through my emails, I'm like, okay, what's insert client's name here doing? What do they think about? How can I give them peace of mind? Should I send them an email? Did I send them an email? How should I give them a call? You know what I mean? Like just keeping them in the loop and keeping that bond, that trust there, so that, you know, in cases where things might get rocky or we might have to do a little more work to get the file done, to get the mortgage complete, it's not one of those ones where they're going to be thinking that, you know, we're doing something snaky behind their back. No, we've kept them in the loop, so they now feel better about things at this point.
Yeah, keeping them informed is very important, right?
Yeah,
I think what I learned in working with John as my partner for all these years, what attracted me in partnering up with him was, you know, you went back to about closing the deal, and obviously you have to close the deal to get a person a mortgage, but that wasn't ever his focus. His focus was always, what does a client want? Like, what's your 3-year plan? What's your 5-year plan? Like, it wasn't just about, here's the best rate, here's the best payment, and that's it, and move on to the next one. Like, you know, he would sit down with people and ask, what are your long-term plans? Are you planning on starting a family next couple of years? Because that might mean we might want to adjust your mortgage payments. And so I think from what I'm hearing right now, you've definitely picked up a lot in terms of how John handles the process with clients. It sounds to me like you're definitely repeating how he handles a client situation and relationship. And in addition to that, it's not just necessarily a Verico TVH mortgage client that you're dealing with. It could be, you know, we call it in the family. That client could be a TVH financial client as well. They could be a TVH accounting client. They could be a TVH legal client. Chances are they'll probably end up being a TVH legal client, because most people don't really have a real estate lawyer, right? And we have someone in-house, right? So we definitely, as a group, treat those individuals as family. It's not just about, you know, closing the mortgage and moving on. And then finally, what I would say that I think is very impressive with John, and I think you'll see this 10, 15 years from now. John has a lot of repeat clients. You know,
Mm.
when we partnered up back in 2008 together officially, he still has clients that he started working with back then. They're still clients of his. And he gets referred a lot of business from clients because they trust him. And you've definitely picked up a lot
Mm.
of those skills from working with someone like John.
No, I definitely agree. And thank you for saying that. I definitely agree. He is definitely someone that I enjoy. Like, I enjoy coming to work and learning and
Yeah.
just keeping your ears open in this kind of environment. Like you said, it's the family, because it's not even just from John. It's from you guys, from TVH Legal. You know, I pick up things and I hear things and I ask questions. And
Yeah.
that's how I learn, right? Because I feel like we all are family here, and
Yeah.
we treat it as such. So like you said, if we have clients that are in the fold, so that also, I feel like, helps make them feel more secure too, when they're taken care of by all of us, right? It's like, hey, you know what? They haven't received instructions yet. Let me walk over to Sonia and talk to her about that, instead of having to let me call and leave the law office a message and see if they get back to me, within their time frame. We're all right here, and we all are in close contact with each other. So I definitely agree with all of that.
Yeah, and in turn, working with the family is, the many clients that we've worked together with, it's the client. The stressful part is chasing down a bunch of information, and how easy it is to just shoot off a message or call you and say, hey, I can get this information for the client very quickly, and there's only one or two pieces they may need to collect. And again, Jim, you had kind of said exactly what I was going to say. The things that I've seen Josh pick up from John are those the relationships that he's created that are lasting year over year, and they're being passed on, and that John knows the strategy of understanding what the person's next steps are going to be, whether it's talking through us or through the client, getting to know the client. And that's really important, because you can't, as we talked about in our last podcast too, about biases and kind of following the herd, right? People just kind of follow the herd, but sometimes talking to an expert like you guys and us, and having everybody be able to talk and understand a single client's main objective, without chasing anybody, then everybody understands the full picture for a client. And whether it's this is a 3-year goal or a 10-year goal, and keeping in mind, the type of mortgage and how you want it structured right now to make sure that you meet that next goal, is very important. That I think clients don't realize when they're dealing with a bank, perhaps, right? Because a bank is just trying to grab the next transaction, right? Where they're not thinking about, well, the next time you come across this, you go to the bank, it's going to be somebody different. Where John's proven that by working with somebody consistently and building a relationship and him asking the right questions, that we can move further down and potentially reach your goals sooner than may have been originally thought out. So
Yeah, and I think the other thing too, Josh, and I know you're going to be working and have been working closely with Ryan, with joint clients, but I think that's really what we do find, and I think that's what clients really appreciate in working with the group, TVH Group as a whole. When John is potentially putting a mortgage together for a client, or you're going to be putting a mortgage together for a client, and that client came from myself or from Ryan, and we sit down with you and say, well, this is what our retirement plans are. This is what the financial plan is looking like. So we need this mortgage to be structured in such a way, because these are some of the goals that we're trying to achieve, over a 1 year, 3 year, 5 year cycle. Then you're informed of that information, and then you could try to, again, match up the client with the proper mortgage based on whatever their long-term retirement or financial plan might be. Where when you're dealing with a separate mortgage broker, or to Ryan's point, if you're dealing with the bank, they're just focused on the mortgage. They're not looking at the long-term planning. They're not aware of any long-term planning. The clients typically don't really understand what the long-term planning is in terms of the recommendations that are made by the financial advisor or financial professional. So I think that's definitely a true benefit. And I'm pretty sure I know the answer to this question, Josh. And you've been working on packaging the mortgages, and we've touched on this, but I'm sure it's a noticeable difference when you're dealing with a client who is strictly dealing with a mortgage with your team, and you're trying to gather the information from their accountant or whomever, right, investment assets, as opposed to the client who's already working in-house, where you can quickly send communication to the team saying, hey, we're trying to put a mortgage together for, Mr. and Mrs. Smith. Are there any assets that you can provide me with information? Hey, David, on the accounting side, can you provide us with the last 2 years' tax returns, right? And by the way, to your point, Sonia, you're going to handle the file, and we need to close this ASAP. So am I right in saying that? It's probably a much smoother, quicker process, more efficient process in working with a client who's part of the group, as opposed to working with someone who's only dealing with TVH mortgages and working with other professionals outside the group.
Yeah, it's night and day. You're not like, even putting probably there is funny, like it really is night and day. And again, like you mentioned, it's just simply better for everyone involved, in my opinion, because we're all right there. Like you said, we're all right there, and we all get it. We all know what we need. And it's also much easier to ask an accountant for a T1 than to ask a busy, you're a busy doctor for a T1. They probably don't even touch that. They probably don't even know. I've had many people who don't know. Right. So it's even just getting things in the sense of the people I'm going to, they work and see these documents every day. So they know exactly what I need when I need it. So it just gives the client that peace of mind. They don't have to run around looking for papers they probably haven't seen in months, Yeah.
And I probably should note that we only ask for that information from the team after the client signs off and authorizes us to do so as well. So we're not just getting into a client's file without permission. We are getting the permission first. Usually, I don't think we've ever had anyone saying, no, I'll collect it all myself. They've all been quite happy to sign off and say, absolutely, if your team can handle it.
Please let me do all the work. Please let me do all the work.
So I just wanted to point that out as well, just for privacy concerns. We do request authorization first before gathering that data. So, Josh, tell us, if a client decides they want to go down the mortgage journey with you, let's talk about what your process is with that client.
Well, the process. Step one, again, like I said earlier, what are we trying to do? Once we know where we are trying to go, then the next step is basically showing them how they can get to where they are trying to go, right? And you mentioned earlier, maybe they've talked to you guys first, and you guys have put together a financial plan for them, right? And that can give me a little snapshot on kind of how to structure things. But again, step one is where we're trying to go. Step two is showing you how to get there. And then step three is then we start to go into the process of gathering the things, of gathering the documentation that we need. And I can't stress step 1 and 2 enough. Build the foundation first, because like you just said, not everyone's going to be as comfortable with giving up a lot of that information. So I think it's very important with establishing the first two, like, hey, I'm trying to help you get here. How are we going to get there? How do you feel about this? Do you think, can we do this right now? Is this happening? Can we do this in a year? Can we do this in a couple of years? You know what I mean? So I'd say those are the first 3 steps. And then step 4 would then be, well, okay, we have all the items now, and we know how we're going to get there, and we know where we're going. Now let's put you in the best situation so that when you get there, you're not lost.
Mhm.
And I think that's something that's overlooked a lot. And I've noticed it a lot in the years working here and the different mortgages that we've done, that sometimes, and you kind of touched on it earlier with just working with a mortgage agent outside of this, it's just like, okay, we're getting you a mortgage and that's it. When I'm going through things with people, it's, yes, we're getting you a mortgage, but then what's happening after that mortgage? Where are we going after that? Are you understanding
But sometimes
what you're getting into?
we should clarify, though, sometimes it's okay if a client is just dealing with a mortgage broker who they just want a mortgage, nothing else. Like,
Oh,
that's okay as well, right?
yeah, that's perfect.
Yeah, not a problem with that. So we're not saying that that's bad, but what we are saying is a lot of clients don't tend to think about all these other things that they need to consider. And we will prompt them to think about those things because they are life events that we need to help them with, from specifically from a mortgage point of view, right?
Well, exactly. And exactly. Thank you for pointing that out, because it's not even just with, oh, let's do the financial planning and let's set you up with legal, let's set you up with accounting. It's also the little things that people forget about. Just recently, okay, I had a client come back to us. We did a mortgage for her a couple months ago, and she thought that her property tax payments were built in with her mortgage payments. TD actually, who she has her mortgage with, they actually just updated their policy, so they no longer bill in any property tax payments at all. So there's no mortgage. Yeah, there's no product they offer that does that now. So all it took was her contacting us, and I immediately just said, hey, you know what? They don't do this anymore, but here's how we can get you set up. And it's things like that, the things that people don't know. Even, prepayments. Sometimes, people don't understand that. People aren't going to go ahead and read the 900-page long document that they're sent in the mail, right? These days. So I'm also here for that. I'm also here to get you through the process and guide you after the process. We don't forget once you're gone, right? So
well, we had a client recently too. Yeah, I mean, we had a client recently as well that on the planning side, I was helping her. We had a review. She asked me about a recent mortgage you guys put together for them. And she's like, yeah, I'm paying for some kind of insurance, and I don't want it. I'm being told that I have to. And, and I asked the question, is it life insurance? Is it home insurance? I couldn't get the answer for her. She's a very busy individual, very difficult for her to try to figure it out. And it was just a quick email, to your team, including the client saying, hey, just met with the client. She's asking about this payment. Can you guys look into it? And then you dug into it and you found that it actually was liability insurance and it was all fine, right? But we did that on behalf of the client. She didn't have to worry about any of that. So it's even just the touch points along the way that I think is really important when they're working with our team or your team, or again, if they're dealing with accounting as well on top of that. And I think another thing too that's kind of recently come up where clients really need to be a little bit more careful is this whole thing about joint ownership on homes. And Josh, you might not be aware of this. This is a fairly recent tax thing, but now if you are a joint owner on title, or even if you're now a co-signer on a mortgage, that potentially can be considered a trust, which means you actually have to do a trust return every single year, which requires additional accounting costs and additional legal expenses as a result. So these are things that we're communicating with each other within the team to say, hey, this just came through the wire. We need to be aware of this and mindful of this. I was able to confirm it with David on the accounting side. He's like, yeah, absolutely. This is now the new way of doing things, right? Be aware of it. And we're staying informed altogether, right? So if all of a sudden you guys are setting up a mortgage, we might not want to set it up a certain way because now there's these other potential consequences as a result, right? And we're saving people a lot of money as a result of having that communication within the team.
No, I agree. And it's, and it's even stuff like that. Like we're checking the bond market every day. You know, there are 8 rate announcements each year. We're plugged into all of those announcements, and we're making sure we're on top of those things. So, you know, our clients don't really have to. Like you said, you know, a lot of them are busy. And, you know, you have other things to do with your life, and we know these are big steps too.
Yeah.
So we're here to get you through those big steps while you're also living your life, right? So you don't have to worry about a lot of these things. And, you know, so I definitely agree with what you're saying.
And they are big steps, but now we're dealing with a bit of a storm that people have kind of trying to navigate through as well with the way the interest rates have gone up. So it's no longer just the big step of having a mortgage. Now people are concerned, what happens when my mortgage is, you know, set to renew? What do I do? And you and the mortgage team are helping clients navigate through that as well, correct?
Yes, exactly. That is a lot of what we're doing right now, and we're happy to do it. So,
yeah, that's good. Ryan, do you have any other questions for Josh? We want to get more personal now.
Well, yeah, we'll save that. But I think one of the things that often comes up with clients is, and understanding, I guess, from your perspective, Josh, like, what are some of the common pitfalls that people often come across when, you know, searching for their mortgage? And then I asked this earlier too on another podcast too, which was, you know, when's a good time to really start looking? If you have a renewal coming up, when's a good time to start shopping around and working with your team?
Good question.
So, a great question. I think when it comes to renewals, 90 days, I would even say 6 months. 90 days is usually like the standard, but I would say 6 months to give them time to put them in a position. So when it does come up, now we're ready. And that's when it comes to renewals, especially, that's what we want. We want you to just be ready. So when that day comes, we're not scrambling at the last moment, because as I'm sure some people who are listening to this, who are watching this, probably know, that is the worst. That is not fun. When on day of closing or the day of the renewal, you're like, oh no, what's going on? And again, a lot of lenders have recently changed their policies on how they handle renewals. So now more than ever is the time to really be on top of these things. So I'd say 6 months. So for example, Scotiabank is a great example. Their policy has always been, if you are looking to renew and it's coming up, you can call in and kind of give them a heads up, say, hey, like, I don't really want to do the standard renewal into a closed term. What are my options?
Right.
Now, unless you're very, very, very specific, and I mean very specific, they are not going to do that. You know, there have been situations where, you know, people have called in, and even still, they're renewed into a closed term, and Scotiabank just renews them, right? Because on their end, it's like, oh, not enough correspondence. So this is what we're going to do. And again, that's what we're here for, to give you the steps on how to avoid things like that, because we don't want that happening to you at all. So I'd say that is a good example. And I think another great thing to just see the options beforehand. You know, another great lender we work with is Merrick's. And they've been really good at allowing clients to see a snapshot of the options that they're willing to provide them. Really much prior before the renewal, right? So it's things like that we can help you with on the front end and on the back end, to kind of show you, hey, this is what you're getting. This is what we'll need. And you can just get that to us weeks before you need to renew, right? So we're not sitting around waiting or sitting on any of these things.
Well, I think,
are they re-underwriting on renewals?
Not typically. Usually what it is if we are doing that on your behalf, we would go to the lender and they might need a couple of documents. The most typical ones are property taxes, some form of home insurance, and that's pretty much it. And then
make sure the liabilities are covered.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
And the reason why the 6 months too is the renewal might not be the best option, might not be the best offer out there. So if they're coming to you 6 months prior to, it might mean potentially refinancing, like taking that mortgage to another lender.
Exactly.
And you have to prepare for that. So most people think, oh, I'll just renew and they'll give me the best rate. And that's not necessarily the case. I think, would it be safe to say that you probably get the worst rate on renewal, right? It's probably that 5-year fixed at posted, usually.
Yeah,
right?
that's usually what you're getting.
Right. So yeah, so I mean, I've had clients in the last couple of weeks that I've been, doing my own reviews with them, and I've noticed that they have renewals later this year, some of them in October, November, and literally I have said to them, now is the time to connect with the team. You guys already have the mortgage. You've just set the mortgage up for the clients, but I'm sending a quick email to the mortgage team saying, hey, just met with so-and-so, the renewal's coming in November. I know you guys have it already on the list, right? Just let them know when's a good time to start the process, and then I leave it up to you guys. So clients don't have to worry about any of that.
Exactly. You're exactly right. And yeah, boy, sometimes you might want to break the mortgage. Sometimes you want to port, you want to switch, whatever the case is. We, again, like you said, we're ready for that. And we want to make you ready for that. So there should never be a situation where you're in the dark or confused. That's kind of when we know, oh, okay, maybe we're not doing something on our end. If anytime someone's confused, that's kind of a good indicator, right?
Yeah. Now, outside of the walls of TVH, what are some of the things that keeps you busy, makes you happy? What do you enjoy outside of the TVH walls?
Outside of the walls of this, I definitely fill up all my time with watching videos on mortgages every week and second.
Really?
My life. No, absolutely not. Sometimes here and there, but
I was going to ask, you have a girlfriend or anything like that? Because there's no way. Oh man!
No, some of the things I really enjoy doing is I love going to the gym. I love working out. I love staying in shape. I've recently changed my diet. I like doing things like that. I recently changed my diet. I eat cleaner now. I eat better. I'm not going to call myself a vegan because I don't want to be attacked. Please don't do that. But yeah, so I do stuff like that. I play rugby. I play a lot of rugby for the Toronto Dragons. So
you still do that?
I do. I really enjoy it, and it's also something to do during the summer. I love staying fit. I love staying active. I love going on walks. I love hiking. Even traveling too. Doesn't even have to be out of the country. It could just be within. I like going to different places. Reading, I do a bit of reading. I mix it up. I do a few things.
Okay. See, when I change my diet, I stop going to McDonald's and I start going to Burger King. That's my shift. And then maybe I'll stop Burger King after a while, and then I'll try Harvey's or something like that. So that's my diet change. I'm sure you can't tell.
Not by the picture. That's why I have the camera
from here on up, right? So, when you go hiking, so when you go hiking, where do you go? Are you like local in Toronto, or do you try to head out?
I usually do local in Toronto because I kind of like to max out the area that I have. So even just recently, I took like an hour-long walk up to Starville Bluffs, and I was just kind of doing some of the trails there to see what was going on over there. And because I live in the beaches, there are it's nice to just have the beach there too, right? Just walk up and down and through the sand. And even to work out during the summer, it's brutal running through sand. It's rough. So, stuff like that. So I'd say I'm very local in the area. I would like to get out though, of go out further out into the province and stuff like that. That'd be really cool to do.
Yeah. So I actually, as a kid, used to hang out a lot at the Bluffs. And the road that takes you all the way down to the bottom into the park. Yeah, I would do that with only front brakes on my bike, no rear brakes, and had a couple of close calls. And the reason why I became afraid of heights was there was one year a buddy of mine, his name was John, not our John, another John. he was a bit of a adventure kind of seeker. And it was after there was this major rainstorm. There was a small kind of ledge off the top of the bluffs, which he decided to hop onto. And then he couldn't make his way back off of it because it was like very muddy and stuff. So the only way to help him was I had to get down on my stomach and put my arm down, right, to try to pull him up. And of course, all I see is, you know, the water crashing onto the rocks and whatever else. And now he's starting to drag me down with him. Right?
Oh, no.
And then I blocked out. And all of a sudden, I found him behind me grabbing my ankles. Right. And so when I came to, his sister was there with us. Her name was Shannon. And I'm like, what happened? Like, how did he end up behind me and grabbing my ankles? And she's like, I don't know what you did, but apparently I just kind of like tugged like that. And he flew over me. And as that was happening, I was sliding down even further. And he grabbed my ankles in time and pulled me back up. But
wow.
yeah. And from that point on, afraid of heights. So I love the bluffs, but I'd never walk up to the edge of it anymore.
Yeah, I agree. Heights are not funny either.
No.
Recently, my sister, she took me and a couple of our friends last year to Wonderland. I've been to Wonderland maybe 3 times in my life.
Okay.
Maybe 3 times. They got some new roller coaster there called the Dragon something. But it takes you at a 90-degree drop. So it's just straight down and it holds you up there. They know what they're doing there, by the way, at Wonderland, because you stay up there for at least 20 seconds looking at what's about to happen. And it's that sense of dread that I get inside that is like, oh, I'm gonna, everything that I ate for the past week is about to come up on the way as a bug. I was gonna go up, you know what I mean? So I definitely agree with that sentiment. I can't do the heights, really. I really can't.
All right, so no business development at hiking or at Canada's Wonderland or anything like that.
At least not from me. At least not from me. If you're in the finance industry, I'm happy to chat. Just don't take me to the CN Tower, the top of the CN Tower, anything.
So in terms of business development, you are obviously working with Ryan. You are working with realtors as well. So why don't you kind of share with people, what is your preferred referral type partner? Like, what are you looking for in a referral partner? So if you're going to partner up with a realtor or potentially another financial advisor.
To keep it honest, I'm looking for people who share the same values that we have here. People who are going to help our clients through the steps in the process. People who aren't going to be there for just the deal or just the mortgage or just the transaction. People are going to be there for the long-term, relationship building, the trust that we've built here with our clients at TVH Group, right? That's really, and I'm sure Ryan, you can agree with this too. That's what really speaks to me, and that's what really makes me want to keep doing this. And I will speak for myself when I say that. It really, and it's funny you mentioned this. It's really been eye-opening, especially to doing more of the business development and reaching out to other businesses too, because you get to hear a lot about what other people's values are. Too as well, right? In this industry. So I would say like that is the no ifs, ands, or buts for me, at least, as long as we're our values are in line for the most part, and you're really looking to better these people's positions in life, in the economy, right? That's who I'm looking to work with, right?
And in terms of meeting with a referral partner or a client, are you going out face to face? Is it more virtual? Are they coming into the office? Like how do you prefer to do business with an individual looking to get a mortgage with you?
So how I prefer to do business is always face to face. I'm a little old school, but I can also settle on virtual as well. I think that's the next best thing. And I really want to utilize that more in what I'm doing now. Because I'd say the bulk of it now is a lot of phone calls, emails. But again, the virtual, the face-to-face, I like to keep it really personal. And I feel like those are the best ways to do it.
Right.
Just meet, let's grab a coffee, let's grab a tea, let's have a sit down, and let's talk about where we want to be and what we're doing, right?
Right.
And let's talk about what we're trying to achieve together, if we can help each other out in that way.
Yeah.
Right. I know, Ryan and I were working on, little things here and there on both of our ends to kind of put ourselves in better positions.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I think it's all about, right? Just having meetings and consistently too, of just, shooting back and forth, seeing what we can come up with and seeing how we can better each other out here, right?
Yeah, and even with Ryan, in terms of helping your clients out, and I've done this with John's clients myself, it's not necessarily the financial plan, so to speak, or the retirement plan. Sometimes clients will approach John, or I'm sure they'll approach you, Josh, and they just don't know if it's at all possible for them to get a home, get into a mortgage. So we partner them up with a realtor. But the other thing that Ryan would help your clients with, or I've helped or John's clients with, is behavioral cash flow planning. So it's literally just talking about their cash flow, seeing if there are some behaviors there that we can identify, maybe some patterns that we could potentially adjust, which will put them in a position to eventually qualify for a mortgage. So that's also something else that we're finding our clients are taking advantage of, is they might just not quite be there at the point to get the mortgage. We'll come in, help them with the cash flow, improve their situation, and then once we feel that they're in the right spot, in the right position to, then we send them back to the team, and then you guys take over. Right?
Yeah. And like you said, or like we said earlier, we're collecting the information when it's possible to be able to share and have a call amongst all three of us, the client, myself, and the mortgage agent, and making sure that we're able to find the right solution and make a goal happen, right? So
yeah. Well, I keep using the example of we're the general contractors, right?
Yeah.
The client is looking for here's the final product, be it the home or whatever else. The general contractor isn't the one that's pouring the foundation and putting up the framing and doing all the electrical. The general contractor's job is to make sure that dream is achieved, that end product is delivered, but they're the ones that bring in a team of professionals to help complete and present that final product. I would say it's the same thing in working with TVH Group. Any one of us would be considered that general contractor, and then depending on what their goals are, then you bring in the different professionals from the team to help complete that goal and help them meet that goal as well. So,
I agree, and kind of to add to what you're saying, I feel on the flip side, even when we talk to other professionals in the industry like realtors and lawyers, whatnot, it's the same for them, right? Like we can also get them to where they need to go, and vice versa, right? So I really appreciate saying that, and any synonym of like the general contractor too, right? Is always, that's something that goes through my mind, because like, when I sit down and I meet with people now, that's something I put on the table kind of front and center, because it's very important. Like, hey, instead of having to run around and connect with a lawyer and connect with a financial advisor, should you need these things, right? We're all right here, and we can get you to where you need to go. Maybe they speak to me and they realize, you know what, maybe I should be talking to Ryan. You know what, maybe I should be talking to legal. And so again, I appreciate you saying that, because that's always the first thing that comes to mind when I think of TVH Group as a whole, is that one-stop shop, that general contractor feel that we have going on here, right?
For sure. So I think we're kind of winding things down now. We're at the 48-minute mark. We like to keep these under an hour. So Josh, if someone is looking for advice on a mortgage, they want to get a hold of you, just again to start the process, how can they connect with you?
I'm always reachable by email, by phone. I'm putting things in place to be even more reachable than I already am. You can find me here at the office. I'm currently there right now. I'm so dedicated. I'm here after hours. You can find me here at 2 Lombard Street downtown, unit 204. You can.
What's your phone number and email address?
Yeah, I was going to say people can't read your mind. So shout out what those contact points are.
Yeah, my phone number is 647-497-5297. At any point in time, if you feel the need to reach out to me, reach out. And my email is josh@tvhgroup.ca. Simple, short, easy to remember. And I will be quick to get back to you because I want to help and I want to get in touch and I want to see how we can do better, So reach out.
And you will have a LinkedIn profile sometime soon as well, so they can find you there.
Exactly.
And if you've forgotten all that information, just go to tvhgroup.ca. That's our main website. Look for John, or you can go to tvhfinancial.ca, and we'll definitely do our best to connect you with Josh as well. So I think that is it, Josh. I really appreciate the time this evening. I'm really excited for you. I mean, I've known you for 5 years. You've grown a lot in the profession. You've grown a lot as a person as well. So I get excited when I see that type of growth in people. So this is just the natural next step for you. I think you're going to be very successful at it. You're a genuine person. So I really do encourage people to reach out and look for Josh and even just have a chat with him. You don't necessarily have to do a mortgage today if you're not ready, but at some point, just keep him on your list. And when you're ready, he'll be ready to help you as well. Right? Anything to add to that or sign off? We're all good?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, well,
awesome.
On my end, thank you guys for having me. And I appreciate you saying that, it means a lot. And, watching you guys and, how successful you guys have been here is also been a big motivator to see, how I want to structure things and how I want to push forward and do better for myself. So I appreciate you guys having me on here and taking the time to do this too. Thank you.
Our pleasure. And this is your first podcast as well. You did really well.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. Awesome. All right, everyone. Thanks again for watching and for listening. We'll talk to you soon.
Why